Well, welcome. It is wonderful to see so many of you here. And I want to extend a warm welcome to the annual meeting of the Kauffman Museum Association. My name is Donna Becker, and I'm president of the board of directors. And like I just said, I'm going to repeat, it is wonderful to see so many of you here. And I have an idea that a lot of you, all of you are here to hear Nate. And some of you may have come especially to hear Nate. So thank you for being here at our Sunday afternoon at the museum program. I'm going to ask Andy to come up and introduce the staff members at this point.
All right, well, good afternoon, and it is my distinct pleasure to get to introduce the people that work here at Kauffman Museum. I am Andy Schmidt-Anderson. I'm the director. I've been in that position for about 2 years officially now, and prior to that spent about 25 years as curator of education. And curator of exhibits, Chuck Regier, is in the back, standing there. You can wave, Chuck. And he has been at the helm of all things design related for the last 30 years, over the last 30 years at Kauffman Museum. Currently, he does extensive work with our Kauffman Museum Traveling Exhibits program. We also have David Kreider here today. He's in the back, also waving, but he's in the far back, so you gotta crane your neck there. David Kreider is a museum technician and takes care of many technical aspects of exhibit maintenance, also building maintenance, and then also works with traveling exhibits with Chuck. And for over 2 years, Dave has filled another role, and that would be a collections coordinator. And that's a job that requires attention to detail, tact, and extensive knowledge of the museum's collections. We also have John Fast, the visitor services coordinator. And John has been with us for just 9 months, but he has 30 years of experience in public education, which he quickly put to good use here at Kauffman Museum, coordinating field trips and managing any groups, and then also supervising both college students and volunteers that work here. This is the team, these 4 people that kept the museum running and successful for the last 12 months. I'd like everybody to give that small group a hand. And I can't say how grateful I am that they continue to be patient and flexible. And there are other people though that made things happen here. Kristen Schmidt was a part of this group until just March. She was the museum assistant and then retired. And she took care of bookkeeping, store management, and many other day-to-day kinds of needs at the museum. And I'm happy to announce that in about 6 weeks or so, her replacement, Coralie Shank, will be starting here in mid-November, and Coralie is moving here from Colorado. She's a Bethel grad, and we'll be glad to have her on staff and kind of back up to our normal staffing levels, or close to normal staffing levels. Also, Austin Prouty was with us about half-time through May, working remotely while he was in graduate school as the design assistant with Chuck. And of course, we have many volunteers who help us in many ways, and we're very grateful for those folks. To fill in some of the gaps this year too, because we were understaffed, we also did hire some subcontractors, and those folks, I don't know if any of them are here today, but Marcia Schmidt has been working this fall covering some of those museum assistant position kinds of tasks. Last fall, Carol Flickinger was on the ground with every field trip that came through. And then Kristen Schmidt, I said she retired, but it's really not true. She comes in 1 day a week and has continued to both process income and then pay bills. And she'll be doing that until we get Coralie settled in the role. And then also Austin Prouty is continuing with us in a very part-time way, but able to help us with our website questions, and then also do some of our social media and help with some graphics that we need. So those are the staff that you've been supporting over the last year. Thank you so much for that support, and I will hand it back to Donna.
Thank you, Andy. And I think on behalf of the Board of Directors, I want to also express our appreciation to the wonderful and dedicated staff that work here day after day. I'd like to now acknowledge the board members who have gone off the board at the end of this term. They have completed a three-year term or part of a three-year term and elected not to continue for a second term. They were a very important part of our board while they were with us. And those people are Julian Gonzalez Salamanca, Jenny Macias, and Cindy Weems. And then I'd like to name the board members who are continuing on. And Andy is an ex officio member of the board, and I'll get to our other ex officio member in just a second. So in addition to myself, our board members are Barbara Bunting, and if you're here, just stand for a second or wave. Barbara is here. Kendra Berkey, I didn't see Kendra. Chris Conradi is on a trip to Europe right now. And then I'm going to mention Josue Coy Dick. He filled the associate member position for a year. This was a position that we created 2 years ago, or a little over 1 year ago. Particularly to provide a place among us for a college student to begin to get some experience being part of a board, and also to bring a unique perspective to the board. Josue resigned during the time that the balloting was going on, and so this is college students who are interested in this position and who have the gifts for this position are also students who are very busy and have lots of commitments. And Jose made a great contribution to our board. For those of you that know him, he's an exceptional young man, but he realized that he did not have the time, given all of his college responsibilities and in his education, to continue. So Christine Downey-Schmidt is also a board member. I don't see her. Marianne Eichelberger is here. Marianne's in the back. Stephen Friesen lives in Colorado, and he is traveling right now as well, but he joins us remotely for our board meetings. Deb Ham is another board member, and Johan Reimer. And then Johan should be here in just a little bit. He's finishing up coaching a soccer game with his son. And then Pam Thiessen, Vice President for Advancement at Bethel College, is back there, and she is also an ex officio member of our board as the liaison from Bethel to our board. I'm hearing a clicking sound. Oh, okay.
There you go.
Well, we're not quite ready.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. And then we were so fortunate to add 6 new board members this year. That's a lot of people to bring onto a board at one time. But we were down some numbers, and the workload just requires to have a little more hands-on deck. And so we were delighted that our nominating committee was able to secure 6 new board members to start with us. And I know some of them are here, but I'll just go down the list. Carrie Kusick is the director at the Newton Public Library. Nathan Kuntz is here. He's in the back, pastor at Bethel College Mennonite Church. Elizabeth Schmidt. Elizabeth, are you here? I didn't see you. Elizabeth is retired from a career as an executive in working with developmental disabilities. Jeremy Schrag is a lawyer in Wichita and lives here in Newton and is coming on. Brian Skinner. Brian, I saw you. Brian's back there. Brian is I'll just sort of say this, hopefully sort of right, the head of the special education department at Newton High School. That doesn't begin to describe all the things that he does there, but we'll say that's his official title. And then finally, Mike Yoder. I didn't see Mike. Mike is with the investigative unit at the Newton Police Department. So I'd like to have you welcome those new members and thank those that are continuing as well as those that have served for a full term. And then at the very bottom, we have the list of our executive committee, and that includes me as president, Mary Ann is our vice president, Stephen Friesen is our secretary, and Barbara Bunting is our member at large. Now I'd like to, since I've told you about the new board members, I can tell you that with confidence because they were elected by the membership. So as you received your ballots and sent them in, we had affirmation for all six of those new board members. So they, by your previous action through those ballots, you have nominated and you have elected them, and we appreciate that very much. I don't see that Johan is here yet, so I think Andy is going to step in, and we'll see if he arrives.
So if you know Johan, he's way taller than me. So yeah, you just have to pretend I'm taller, have dark curly hair, and maybe in a soccer outfit. Let's see, Chuck, if you want to go ahead and put the budget screen up. And I hope you can all see that pretty well. Nate, do you mind, or Chuck, dialing down the mood lighting? Okay, maybe you can see that a little bit better. We did have quite the positive outcome this year with a net gain. I didn't bring this up on a piece of paper, up a little over $39,000. So very happy about that. And that leaves us with 2 years in the black. And 2021, one of the reasons that was significant increase in funds that year was we received COVID-19 relief funds. So last year we can pretty much attribute that positive income to that. This year we did receive about $10,000 in COVID relief funds, but considerably less than the year before. But many of the reasons we did quite well this year is an excellent traveling exhibit program, including our new exhibit on vaping, and that did quite well. And so that, plus the fact that we were running on fewer staff than usual. So the decrease in paying staff, the increase in work, makes for a stressful situation, but a great financial situation. So that's a bit of the overall picture. And I'll go back to a few highlights or details about this year just really quickly. In 2021, we started the Heritage Farmstead Fund. You can see that down at the bottom. And then you can see where it started in this fiscal year. And then in the next column is the proposed 2022, 2023. And so this is the first year, just this past year is the first year with the Heritage Farmstead Fund. Something that was significant is we received $232,000 gift from the Rosalind Andreas estate. And you can see how, I don't know if many of you can see because it's way on the bottom, but the reserve fund there jumped by that much. So when we received the funds from that estate, we put it into the reserve fund and took the time to thoughtfully decide where it should go. And with that decision, the board, first the financial committee, and then the board processed those ideas and decided to put $80,000 of that money into the endowment, $40,000 directly back into the 2020, the upcoming this year, 22-23 fiscal year, to help cover another staff position, which hopefully will in turn help get those traveling exhibits on the road and begin providing income to pay for itself. And then the remainder of the funds we left in the reserve account. We use the reserve account for emergencies or out of the ordinary expenses. And it had gone down, and we had taken money from that in the years when we had a net loss. So now we're trying to build that up a bit again. Let's see, I'm pointing out some of the highlights. An unusual expense that we have, and this is one of those instances where something came out of the reserve fund, is we are in the process of patiently waiting to hear about a large estate that might come to us, and we've needed to pay some legal fees while the family decides what's going to be happening. So we did have about $10,000 that we needed to take out of the reserve fund for that, and we're expecting one, to get another bill for some of that process, and two, to hear a verdict from a judge from a bench trial that was held in July. So we're waiting to hear about that. And then I think those are the main points. I do see Johan there, and I would be willing to take any questions, and then I have Johan for backup there. Now, I think that's the end of what I wanted to share. The parts in red is what I've mentioned with transferring the money from the reserve fund to the endowment or staffing from that large gift. Any questions?
Let's have Johan come up.
Oh yeah, we should have Johan come up, and I wish Chris could come up, but he's on his way to Europe, so we won't do that. But I'm glad to have Johan here. Johan and Chris have worked diligently to really stay on top of the budget. It's been great to have two board members really focused on that.
One thing that, and obviously my apologies for coming in late, one thing that was interesting for us as we looked at developing this budget for the year, and I think this is something that Andy is really well aware of, when we made a decision to try to increase staffing for the museum, which is what we're trying to do, there is some significant lag there. So when you look for our 2022-2023 projected personnel costs, obviously they're higher than they've been in the last 4 years, but really the goal would be to hire and then retain staff, and then that number is going to push significantly higher than next year. So something to keep in mind. I think we understand that puts a little bit of pressure on us for the revenue side, but that's just something to be aware of there. So that number, because of the staffing level we're trying to get to halfway through the year, maybe even 3/4 of the way through the year, that's what it's going to take for us to get people in place. And then the year after, hopefully if we retain that staff, that number is going to go up even higher. So just something to keep in mind.
Questions for Johan or for me?
What is the overall number for the association members of gifts and what is, I can't read these numbers, but
Sure.
What's the association bringing in?
Yeah, I think the line item probably that makes the most sense for that, and some of this will go in different ways, is that gift account. I know it is hard to read, so it really is that top line up above. So this past year, we had $80,000 hitting that gift account, and we're showing 105, but remember what Andy was saying, 40,000 of that is coming from Andreas estate. So we're projecting about 60,000 there. There are some other pots of money that donor gifts can hit. For example, if you come to a fundraiser, living endowment dinner, something like that, it won't go to that same line item. But that line item up top is general year-end giving. Most of the gifts we'll hit that one. And membership, right.
Fiscal year, July to July?
Yeah, June 30 to July 1.
June 30 to July 1, which is the same as Bethel College, correct? The same as Bethel College.
Or July 1 to June 30.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's either July 1 to June 30 to be accurate.
Any other questions? I guess I would say, John, if you want to compare that, it looks like the year that ended in 2019, gift income was at 66. 2020 was 66. 21 was 50, and then 22 was 80,000, and that's gift income. Okay.
All right, if there are no further questions or comments, then I am going to adjourn the annual meeting of the Kauffman Museum Association. And we'll turn now to our Sunday afternoon at the museum program, and I'll ask Andy to come and introduce that.